Welcome back, friends and neighbors, up north, down south, and across the country. This is Chiefs Kingdom. We're going to have an interesting discussion with your man, Seth Keysor, as soon as he's available. Oh, and there he is.
It's a good week to be a Chiefs fan.
It's one tagline or another, and we have plenty to talk about. You saw the media get out at Chiefs camp today. Yes. They unleashed a whole hound of things. We're going to get all into all of them, talk about Seth's Substack and what's going on over there. This is RGR Football. Welcome back. It's a whole nother week. And all of a sudden, we got a bomb dropped on us this afternoon.
Yes.
Right, we are Rogue Nation. And Seth, it is nice to see you. How was your week?
My week was interesting. The sleepy little town of Park Rapids and the tiny little town of Hubbard County is actually in the news a little bit. So there's a lot going on. I ended up, this is the first anything I've done related to football this week. Due to, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want my worlds to collide too much. As you see, I sit in my office here as the assistant county attorney. There are a series of people have opinions about what's called Line 3, an oil pipeline that's being built. And there's a lot that's happened here this week. And so I have not slept much, but I'm here and it's been exciting, if nothing else. I got to meet a bunch of interesting new people, have some wonderful exchanges of ideas, which is always nice. It's been great, but it has been exciting and it's been a different kind of week.
Not exact. I tell you what, I think we've all had that week, including the guys that are out there at camp. We're going to talk about that. You guys know about the news. Kyle Long has sustained an injury. I know you guys want to know about it. I think the first question, of course, Ben Brotbeck. Thank you again for the super chats. For those of you that are new, like, sub, and hit the bell. And if you want to super chat at us, we very much appreciate it. Please ask something or say something that we can comment on.
And I haven't in several weeks. Super chats. I mean, I'm excited about them. I'm like the Cold Stone Creamery of Chiefs YouTube live streaming. I will sing for my supper. I'm not afraid.
Flat and cold, huh? Okay, I like that. That works just fine. And Ben's asking, what happens now? But for those of you who don't know, Kyle Long came up with an injury. It was originally reported as a fracture. It is not. That was then updated. It is a soft tissue, something or other. Andy Reid said today that, hey, it's not ligaments. We're pretty sure. We're double checking that. It could require surgery. We don't know yet. This is, unfortunately, this is what Kyle's career has been for the last 3 seasons that he played, and obviously he was out of the league last year. So we can't be too surprised, but they say that he'll be back for camp. I mean, how do you feel about, can't even get through, no offense to Kyle, but if you can't get through, shells on sevens, I don't know about longevity here, man.
Well, and that's, I think, what a lot of people are concerned about. It's always a dangerous thing to call someone injury prone because what does that really mean? And you're the guy who knows stuff about such things. Generally speaking, injuries are random. For some people, particularly on the wrong side of 30, they can be a little less so. And there are some people that just don't recover as well from injuries. Bodies do what they do. Every body is different, right? That's not me saying everybody is different. Every human body is just a little bit different. And with Kyle Long, I'm willing to say, okay, well, I guess we'll see. But it's not like it's, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. It's they're confident he'll be back by the start of the season. And it's a bummer for Kyle Long. From everything I've seen, he had the starting right guard position on lock, at least as much as it can be this time of year.
Yeah.
And he's got a perfect skill set for Reid's system. So it's a bummer for him. He's trying to come back. He took to Twitter. He expressed his disappointment. I'm sure he'll work hard to come back. I think after taking a year to really get healthy. That's got to be discouraging. So that's a bummer for him. From the Chiefs' point of view, it's a bummer as well because it seems like he was the guy they had slated to start at right guard. But it definitely makes things interesting in terms of who's left in the room at this point.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll read between the lines for you guys a little bit because this is somewhat coach speak. This is also something that you see in a lot of physiological response, right? Mm-hmm. Saying that, hey, it might be ligaments, but we're pretty sure it's not, but it's not a fracture. That leaves a couple of things. And for a guy that size, who we know isn't in serious contact, we're not talking about fractures. We're not talking about blows that remove any of the significant tissue. This is most likely a high ankle sprain. That is the most common injury as it goes, and it is significant. It can be repaired surgically. It is something outside of the joint itself. If that is it, that's actually a good thing because he can recover. It would have been better if this was the last day of mandatory minicamp, but this isn't a terrible time because he had this built-in, weeks of rest that he could take. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. There's natural time there to get it figured out. It's obviously discouraging, though, especially with injuries being the primary concern with him. Everything that got said about him was with the caveat of if he's healthy.
And as far as Ben's question is, the other thing that Andy said today is that LDT will be back for mandatory minicamp. And so that got me checking a couple things with travel in Canada. This has most likely been the plan all along. Kyle Long's been getting all those snaps because he's the best guy that's currently in camp. Mm-hmm. LDT was going to have some quarantine issues and those kind of things. So at this point, yes, Trey will get in the rotation. He's been in the rotation. Wiley's been repping over at left guard, as I understand it. So that might change a little bit, you guys. But really what you're going to do right now with this injury, starting next week, you're going to swap in LDT for Kyle Long. So it's not the end of the world.
Right. And that's where a bunch of interesting questions come into play with regards to LDT, because he's obviously a year out, didn't play any football last year. Whether that, how that affects him is just impossible to say. He might just hit the ground running. He might need a little more time to get reacclimated to things. But it's also worth noting, you and I talked about this when we were talking about Kyle Long. We were talking about the entire competition. 2019 was not LDT's best year. Yeah. I would say, he was pretty good in 2017. He had his best year in 2018. By my recollection, I'd have to really get the years labeled in front of me because he was horrific his first year. It was bad. Yeah. But he improved drastically each and every year until 2019, where especially in pass protection, he struggled more than he had the previous year. And he was part of some problems on the interior in terms of pass protection. So that's going to be interesting to see, what was 2019 kind of an aberration, or is that something that that's who he is right now. So that's going to matter a great deal now. And that was kind of the nice thing about having Kyle Long and LDT and Trey Smith and et cetera, because you kind of hope that by necessity you get the guy who was absolutely in top form.
Yeah. Well, and I want to get into that because a lot of people are putting a lot on Trey Smith. I don't necessarily think that he's ready. I know you've done more in depth than I have. Mm-hmm. Let me hold that one a minute because Casey, I think it's Butler, is really concerned about your son. Casey, thank you for probably the biggest super chat we've had this year. You're very generous. I'm glad that you're concerned for Tucker's well-being, but I think he's doing all right. So Seth,
is that so I can buy it? Is that so I can buy a new son? Because I could probably upgrade with that kind of money.
I don't know. The kid took it pretty well. It'd be hard to upgrade.
He actually, all things considered, on camera, I handled it about the same as him, but off camera, he handled it better than I did. By the time when he and I chatted afterwards, he actually likes spicy stuff. In fact, he is supposed to be joining me any second now, to at least hang out. He just got done with work. Apparently, he has good news from work. I don't know what that is. But yeah, okay. If he's alive, which he was last I checked, he's supposed to be walking through my office door at any second. I actually left the fob to get into the building outside so he could get in. Which
okay,
maybe I shouldn't have admitted that in public, but whatever.
No, you probably should not have.
What are you gonna do? Did I say outside? I meant I left it on the side of the secure portion of the building because I would, of course, never leave it outside.
There you go.
But Casey, that's very kind of you and very generous. Tucker's doing well. He actually felt fine the next day. I felt fine the next day. I'm actually, and I know a bunch of people expressed concern here because of how much worse the ghost pepper is. I'm feeling a little more confident about the ghost pepper.
Oh, look at that! Now the trash comes out
because it was hot. Like it was hot, and it was tough, but I didn't realize how much vanilla ice cream helps.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it makes a world of difference. Like it's almost complete relief. Now, it's just for a split second. Then you got to put another bite in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I put it in, and you're good. Crap! It's hot again. You're good.
So can we go with the habanero ice cream? Is that our next brand?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think we need to do that.
Habanero ice cream presented by RGR Football and the Chief in the North. Let's do this. I bet I could get the Athletic interested in something like that.
Folks, if you're a dairy farmer somewhere that we can get a hold of, we would like to do a Ben and Jerry's kind of Seth and Ryan kind of thing. It would be interesting, and I will help, and this will be good for everyone. We need to bring habanero ice cream to the world. And
why should Ben and Jerry? What's special about their first names that they can create this massive brand? What's wrong with Seth and Ryan? It's still got the same number of syllables, even. So no, it's perfect. I love it.
4 eyes, one set of glasses. We're all set.
Absolutely, exactly. We'll be good to go. Someone who thinks he can handle spicy food and someone who actually can. We're all over this. I like it a lot. But yes, Tucker's doing well. Assuming he actually joins me at some point. So if I seem like I'm like checking my phone, that's why I'm just making sure like he's not like stuck outside because it's unseasonably hot here in Minnesota right now. It's like 97 degrees today. It's just, it's ridiculous. I don't know what the deal is. And I'm not built for that. We in Minnesota, like I love to make fun of, I'm sure you have a lot of people who watch from Kansas City. I don't do well in heat. The training camp heat, it's even like, 10, 11 in the morning. I'm starting to like, I need to get to some air conditioning quick. I just don't do well with it. Then as much as of a hard time I give people that are from Kansas City, they get in like 20-degree weather and they say,
oh no.
And I'm sitting there like, guys, it's really going to be okay. Losing a layer. It's like, I need this sweatshirt to come off. But yeah, long road to a short thought. Tucker's doing okay. Good.
I'm glad. Nathan asked, Seth, was there a bet at training camp 2 years ago? And was that what ended up with the getting tased thing?
No, so the tase thing was that was Josh Briscoe. That was a times ours. He kept during the Chiefs Super Bowl run. Actually, that's how long this was. Because remember, it was before COVID kind of swept through everything. He kept saying, if such and such happens, you can tase me. And the Chiefs kept winning games. And so he was afraid to stop. And then he did it one too many times. He did it all the way through the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs won on the back of Josh Briscoe's willingness to be tased. And then he did it one too many times. He said, if the Chiefs draft a running back in the first round, I'll let you tase me. And here's the thing. I know, based on, again, I've always told people, I don't know people. I don't. That's not what I do in this business. I know some people who know some people. And by knowing some people who know some people, I knew enough to know that while the Chiefs are analytically smart, they're not quite as hardcore about never a running back in the first round, and that they loved Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take that bet. And then they did, and it was hilarious. So that's how Josh ended up needing to be tased. And then through that, I ended up needing to eat a ghost pepper because I quote tweeted something stupid about Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers is famous for being kind of vindictive. And they were saying, like Rodgers was saying, oh, I'll give the kid a call, like Jordan Love a call once he's drafted. And I think I quote tweeted, like, I'll eat a ghost pepper if he calls that guy. Because I didn't think there was any way he would, but he did. So basically, it's just the moral of the story is grown men saying stupid things that lead to consequences.
Okay. Yep. And that's all there is to that story because I'm not getting involved. Once again, Casey Butler, thank you very much for that super chat. Very generous. Thanks, Drummer Casey. Dude is here as well. Thank you for yours. And you have a question that we really need to talk about every year because he asked Seth, do you guys feel like the Chargers can actually be dangerous this year? For some reason, it makes me nervous. And that's because all it takes is 1 year of being healthy, and they could be. right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Chargers are built to give the Chiefs some problems. Maybe a little less so now. Melvin Ingram has traditionally played pretty well against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And while Bosa's been the primary problem, make no mistake, them having – we've seen with the Chiefs, one way you can at least slow down their offense and give them some problems is having a pass rush from both edges. Now, you generally want it to come from everywhere, but like if you're able to kind of close out Mahomes – and yes, interior pressure matters, but if you're not getting that he's kind of different from a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks are really bothered by interior pressure, and he is too, but he's so great at bailing out right or left.
Yeah.
And either, scrambling for an easy 10 yards or finding someone down the field, that with him, it's if you can get that edge rush, that disciplined edge rush that not only wins around the edge, but also starts to slowly crush the pocket so it doesn't get looped around. That gives him problems if it's both guys. And that's what the Chargers have been able to do. Additionally, when Derwin James is healthy, he might be the only player I've ever seen cover Travis Kelce consistently one-on-one and win.
Yeah.
And I mean genuinely win, and I would say borderline dominate the matchup because he's like the only guy with the combination of foot speed, smarts, size, and ball skills. Like he's got the entire package. And so
by the way, I won't say dominate.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dominate.
I will not say dominate.
But he did win the matchup between the two of them.
Yes.
And it's just in a way that it's so different from what other guys do against Kelce that it almost appears dominant because it's so weird for Kelce to ever lose a route, if that makes sense. So the thing with the Chargers, it's been a health thing every year. And then Rivers, is who he is. Herbert scares me. I will say this. I mean, they did a great job. They're rebuilding the offensive line. Super smart of them. They've got weapons. Their defense is going to be a question mark. It played well against the Chiefs last year, but it was really inconsistent against everyone else. And I'm curious how the Chiefs' offensive line will look. The biggest thing will be Herbert, though.
Yeah.
As we saw last year with Herbert, he is a guy who can make unbelievable plays, unbelievable throws. But as we also saw in that very first matchup, he makes some really stupid throws too.
Yeah, there's chances there.
Yep. L'Jarius Sneed's pick over the middle of the field. It was an incredible play by Sneed to break off from his coverage and show that closing speed to get over the top. But it was a throw Herbert should have never made. And so things like that, he's going to have to cut down on that. And low key, I've seen actually this coming out a little more. Low key down the stretch, Herbert faded a little.
Yeah. It's
so
like
we'll
he
see.
was a rookie.
Yeah. It's like this is his first time seeing all this or something like that. No, so we'll see. But this is the year I've actually jumped off the Chargers bandwagon the last couple of years after years of saying there's no such thing as curses. That's ridiculous. The last 2 years, I was finally like, okay, I give up. They're cursed.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And so we'll see what happens this year. But they actually do. I feel like I'm jumping back on the bandwagon a little bit thinking, they look on paper dangerous.
Yeah, it is all about staying healthy as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And maybe the seventh try is the charm. I don't know. Ian Roberts, thank you. Been training for a new job, and it's a new career path, so it's taking up my free time. Well, congratulations to you.
Yeah, congrats.
I look forward to you being back a lot as well, Ian. It's fun, and I hope that you dig the new format with Seth and I. Andy H., I'm glad you're asking for Buster. I am currently well clothed. Thank you very much, my friend. You are a unique specimen. Yeah, no one knows about Seth. I mean, he's at work, so.
Why do you think I haven't stood up to go look at my son yet?
I was wondering when you tell me, hey, I'm going to get on from work, and then I see lawyer Seth in a lawyer atmosphere with no tie. I was like, that's impressive.
I went home early today. It's been a tough week. We arraigned probably approximately 150 people, and we're a county that normally we might have one or two in custodies a day. Yeah. And so it was a lot. And so I actually went home today and took a little nap, and then I came back, and this is how I dress when I have a choice.
That's awesome. Dre, very good point. And at some point we'll hook up with BJ, especially now that he's not with the mothership. It's a little bit easier, but we'll see what we can do around training camp.
BJ's good people. He and I cut our teeth on the same website. I always joke around with people that he kind of started working there when I had kind of ascended a little bit on the site. And then he very quickly lapped me several times because no one works harder than BJ. And he is also there are a lot of friendly people in this industry who aren't necessarily your friend. BJ's a different person. He's someone that you can genuinely trust and just a great guy. So I second that. We'll get some barbecue sometime or something. I imagine those fellas would be okay if we ate like Jack Stack or something.
You think maybe
based on everything I see.
Hey, if any of you guys work at Q39, that's where I want to hook up because I've only been there once. Let's start a battle. I think we can win, although I will always go to Martin City for Jack Stack. So anyway,
yes.
Stevie, Casey Super Chat is to Gooch's Super Chat finger. What teenage camp counselors fooling around at Camp Crystal Lake is to Jason Voorhees. Well,
good Lord.
That was a long way to get to a scary answer, but I'm glad you made it. So good job.
I always admire a long road to a short thought.
I know you're great at it. It's like you argue for a living.
One might think that at some point.
Well, I want to circle back because today's activities, and you guys will cover all the rest of them. I do have a hard stop at the top of the hour because Locked On Chiefs is going to be live tonight as well. So watch that. For me, what I see in terms of the rep counts at OTAs right now, and remember, guys, this is OTAs. This is walkthroughs. This is, hey, rookie, get used to what's going on. Yes. A lot of people want to put Trey Smith into that now backup role. I don't know that I see that because when I watched his college film, I liked the power aspect more than anything, and I think that it is definitely NFL level. The movement skills, I did not think were NFL level. I think that's going to take some time to develop. I think, quite frankly, footwork in general is something he needs to work on. And I think at that point, he'll be a more viable candidate. Does he start a game this year? Maybe. But I don't see it being right now just because Kyle Long got injured. You've done the work on him as well. What's your take?
I think that they could start Trey Smith and be fine. His ceiling, I do think he would have snaps, though, where he hurt them. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. And that's not like to like a knock on Trey Smith. You can see why people thought that he could have been like a second or third rounder. Second round would have been pushing it because of consistency. The thing with Smith is that even in his final season, the highs were just unbelievably high against top-notch competition. The lows were pretty low, though. There were a few times where you saw him tossed around a little more than you would expect a guy that shows his elite strength. And there were a few times that he just didn't quite show the push that you'd expect. It just seemed to kind of run a little bit hot, a little bit cold, not in terms of effort, but I think this is probably a technique issue overall, where because you talk about the footwork and that kind of stuff. He has the feet. Make no mistake, because he'll have snaps where he moves really well. But consistency matters. And I think that's when you're talking about feet. You'd see snaps where he just doesn't get where he needs to be, or he gets there and he whiffs on a block, or he lunges or something like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, I think, is he has been a high-level mauler, where that's been enough for years. And at the NFL level, you just you just can't get away with that. And that's something that he's going to need to learn and learn quickly. Now, from all accounts, he's a quick study.
Yep.
But so that's going to depend. So what I would anticipate from him, let's say he did end up starting a bunch of games, I think he would probably get better as the season went along if he didn't hit like a rookie wall or something. But I think the lows would be pretty low. I think you would see some plays directly, like with a run for loss or a quarterback sack or something, that were blown up because he got hit with a real quick push-pull or something like that. Because those were the moves that gave him trouble. When it was guys he couldn't bully, which is what it's going to look like at the NFL level, who had that agility to force him into actually – he couldn't just rely on his raw strength. He would get caught leaning, lunging, getting off his center of gravity. And so, like, if you compare him to, like, Creed Humphrey, for example, Smith was on the ground way more. Whereas it didn't happen with Humphrey very often.
Right. I mean, honestly, when you take a look at them, I discounted them even having interest in Trey Smith because I don't think he's a scheme fit for the zone scheme. Because he lunges because he doesn't move his feet well enough. I would argue his feet aren't that great. I would say that the moments where they are the rarity, where he breaks his normal consistency level, rather than saying, oh, he's good, but sometimes he doesn't perform. I would see it the opposite. I actually think that he's built to be in a man crush scheme offensive line. This seems like it's part of the shift, though, towards if you're going to give us light boxes, we're going to get dudes that are going to run you over.
Right. And that makes sense. And that's where I think you guys talked a little bit about gap versus zone, and this idea that, you're going for an advantageous angle, but you got to be able to move a guy off his spot. And Trey Smith can do that. Mm-hmm. But unless they plan on moving completely away from the stuff they've done, you'd think that he's going to need to be able to pull into space and that kind of stuff too. Now, one thing I've seen Reid do, so like with Kelechi Osemele, he did this as well. Osemele every time. They altered their scheme a little bit to where he wasn't like having to pull all the way around the entirety of the line to get out into space. They were trying to do a little bit more gap stuff. You'd see a little more combo blocks where they were trying to do a few things differently with him. And that's Reid for you. He'll try to mask what guys don't do well. And so maybe in theory, what you could do is, okay, we need a guy, we need a guy to pull all the way around. Well, we're going to ask Creed to do it. We're gonna alter assignments a little bit, but there's only so many things you can do with an outside zone. You can't completely alter everything because there's a reason it's set up the way it is, because defenses are lined up the way they are. So, yeah, no, go ahead. I'm curious because with Smith's feet, I see the capability there, but it doesn't sound like you do. Like you think that it might be an actual physical limitation.
Not even a limitation, because you're right. When he hits it, that is good enough to run zone constantly in the NFL. My problem is, again, I don't see it enough to think that he can do it down in, down out. And my concern is for the offense as a whole is that limits you maybe, that now you're running zone mostly to the left side. And that is a concern in terms of tendencies that the defense can pick up on. So I don't like that aspect of it, but I want to give him as much credit as I possibly can. And honestly, he's got a lot of adjusting to do. We knew that. I just want to tamp down everybody's supposed hysteria that he's now a starting level player. He hasn't changed. Your starter went down. That's the difference.
Yes. And that's such a huge thing in terms of what I loved about what they had going on with guard. Like I said, you had a situation with Long and LDT and Smith where in theory you've got some guys with some question marks, but odds are one of them with the coin flip, heads or tails, it's going to come up the side you want. Mm-hmm. With Kyle Long going down, and again, he might be back, and it might just be a temporary hiccup. But now you're at But now you're at two guys who are a little more coin flippy, as it were, for lack of a better term. And it's more likely potentially that both of them maybe don't have the result you want. I will say, I think I like Trey Smith. Okay, hey, Tucker, show the nice people that you're alive. They want to make sure.
Hey, nice to see you, Tuck.
Yes, it's been verified that you're alive. He's okay. This is not his stunt double.
Hold up a newspaper, please. We want proof.
Yeah. Have him hold up a newspaper. But yeah, so that the thing with Smith, it was always going to be a long shot for him to start this year.
Yeah.
And I still think it is. I personally would be less surprised in some ways, despite the fact that he really struggled last year, if like Wiley got the nod as a starter. Like, let's say LDT just doesn't work out or whatever. But the one I expect is LDT. If Kyle Long can't go, I do think Kyle Long is probably their guy, but I think LDT will get the nod pretty easily over Smith. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, and that's all right. We'll see what happens. And like you said, Kyle could be back. They sound fairly confident. If we find out otherwise next week, when we know a little bit more, we'll go from there. But if you guys want to read what Seth has wrote about Trey Smith, there's a lot of detail there. So go check out this address, MinnesotaChiefsFan.substack.com. That's where you can get it all. And we'll keep bringing it up. So, there's always that aspect. But
yes. Or you can go to bit.ly/Seth really hates money.
Right.
For the deal. You like that?
I love that one.
And so that'll get you to the deal that's $12 a year forever. So $1 a month.
Yeah,
less than
that out.
Yes.
And it's been a labor of love. And RGR football fan, I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry you're working so much. I know how that goes. It's been a week for everybody. So congrats. Glad you made it back. Which rookie or second-year player will impress us the most in 2021? I don't know. Once I get to see a practice, I'll have a clue. But until then, I will not venture a guess.
Yeah, right now it's hopes and dreams. In terms of impressing the most, I think there's a good chance it's Creed Humphrey. And I don't want to get in that position to where, we start to overrate a guy who is a rookie. Yeah. There's going to be growing pains. Maybe, with Mitch Morse, there wasn't. He came in and everyone's like, oh, wow, he won the starting center position. And he was really good from year one.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this, Creed Humphrey is on paper, if things work out. Was it you that said this or Dan, like a roided out Mitch Morse?
No, it was not me.
But and I'm not sure it would be Dan either, because he had some questions about Humphrey's functional strength and that kind of stuff. With questions that he and I'd love to chat with him about that sometime, because I thought Humphrey was pretty consistently strong. He wasn't Lando in terms of like running guys over. But He's got good functional strength, more so than Morse, who was more like adequate. He could do it. So
again,
I think
a zone center. So
yeah, he's a zone center. Whereas I think Creed has a chance to be an excellent zone center, as well as a guy who can run gap, as well as a guy who can deal with nose tackles one-on-one without having a big problem there.
We'll set something up for the three of us to go over something.
Yeah.
Then we can all,
At some point we could do that.
Sorry, stream of consciousness. I don't mean to interrupt. It just is what it is.
No, see, I like that. That's one thing I like about this format is if we do that to each other, it just happens. It's not locked on where it's like, Seth, none of that last 10 minutes was usable because you sound insane. And then it's like, you can't call me a potato. And it's like, wait, what? This makes it all the more fun.
Ben, thank you for your super chat again. That's 2 from you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ben.
He's wondering about Remmers. Is he durable, but is he our starting right tackle until Niang is ready? Yes. Every snap that I understand from the first team has been Remmers to this point.
Mm-hmm. I think it's Remmers' job to lose. Now, I think Remmers was always going to get the initial starting stuff.
Yeah,
I would assume, because while Niang is with his second year on the team, it's not really his second year with the team. He didn't really go through a lot of this stuff with the team last year because they had virtual stuff and then it was over.
Yeah.
Then he opted out. And that's fine. That was his call. But it's just one of those things that he's basically a rookie coming in. And Andy Reid, generally speaking, doesn't put rookies out there right away. Well, he put Creed Humphrey out there, but it's worth noting Creed Humphrey is competing with Austin Blythe, who was not here last year.
And who has not been seen nearly
That's
at
also
all.
true. That's also true. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think it'll be Remmers unless Niang is the clear winner of a training camp battle.
Right. It's got to be not by the hair of his chinny chin chin, but it's got to be quite a bit, right?
Yeah, Ty goes to the veteran.
Right.
And that's with Andy Reid, that's the way it's almost always going to be.
Yeah. Great question from Dre. And I hope the 303 means you're out here in Denver, Dre. At some point, we'll do a Chiefs get together now that things are opening up out here in Colorado, and we'll find all the Colorado fans and get them together. I don't have a favorite. I will tell you that. When I am just like hungry, I go to Gates. When I want something that's going to push me a little bit in terms of being like maybe flavors that I'm not expecting, a little more guessing game, I'll go to Q39. I end up at Jack Stack a lot too. That's probably my family's absolute favorite. And yes, we do prefer the Martin City location. But there's another one that I'm guessing, if you answer this same question, is different.
Isn't it in Denver?
Oh, did he ask in Denver? Well, dang, sorry. I guess I'm really hungry because I'm missing home. I don't eat barbecue here, man. There's
nice. That's the right answer right there.
There is one guy
stinking barbecue in Denver.
I think his name's Charlie. I can't remember. There's one guy who has a portable. It's not a food truck. He's got a portable pit, and he's from Lenexa, and he's out here a lot in the Aurora area, which is a long ways from me, so I don't get out there very often. That's where I'm not sure where he is. But Dre, look for him, ask around, and if I find something, I'll put something in the community tab for you guys. Dang, thanks for catching that. So now I'm really hungry.
No, I'm a wise man. I like to think of myself as very much on the ball today.
Okay,
I'm not. Don't smirk at that.
Let's be positive. Yes.
The boy is insolent.
Couple questions, and then I want to get back to where we were over on Substack. Catch a Chief of the North while nursing a broken cuboid bone. I am sorry, Scott. That kind of sucks. Woo. And this is, I'm glad you went here. With Ward signing his tender, does that affect Honey Badger? No, the money was already baked in for Ward. All he's saying is, yes, I will play for that. He had no choice. It was that sit out.
It was either accept the $3 million or so.
3.3, I think.
Yeah, or sit out, which I understand. You know, for him, he's probably frustrated the Chiefs haven't signed him long term, and I get that to an extent. Although I would argue, I mean, his play has been okay, but not great. By the way, bummer, Breeland is out of the picture. Makes the cornerback situation a little more interesting. But, I mean, Breeland has clearly outplayed Ward the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And Ward's been fine. It's just he's been outplayed by Breeland. And so it's worth noting for him, you know, this contract is worth more than probably his previous 3 years combined. But that doesn't affect Honey Badger at all. I mean, I think that's something they're working on. I'm guessing probably sometime around training camp, you'll find out news about a contract.
That's my thought as well. And I will say this, a lot of folks were asking, and I can see some of your questions, folks. When I scroll, I don't get to see them all, but I did see several about the Titans. And I will tell you this, the Titans are a team the Chiefs play, and they'll likely play them twice, is my guess, once in the regular and once in the playoffs. That is a team that they will miss Breezy because he has the physicality to go up against A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and not get dominated.
Yeah. You know, Jones in particular is a player that I think would give Breeland trouble just because he, not in addition to being physical, is also absurdly explosive and a big-time downfield threat. But guys like A.J. Brown, Breeland consistently did pretty well against. Like you said, that physicality. And when he doesn't have to worry about getting beat deep, which that's just not A.J. Brown's game, they're going to miss him. And his sure tackling against a run-oriented team. You know, would I have given up a second for Julio? I think we all know the answer to that. I mean, it's one of those things that hopefully it doesn't bite them because I understand there is an eventual limit to how many of those things you can do.
Yeah. I mean, but I agree with you. I would have done it too. A second and a fourth and a sixth back. I mean, come on.
That's pretty easy for me. But.
It's just about balancing the cap. Avery, I love that you did this, and thank you for the super chat. So Avery said, if you're enjoying this, get a rogue in the chat, and I see a bunch of them. That's awesome. I will tell you this. I will take this a step farther. For any of you who would like to do it, give me a selfie video of you saying rogue, send it to me on Twitter and at me, and I will string them all together, and we'll use that as a new intro. I would love to see that. Avery, that is hilarious, and that is a great idea. Ian's back with another one. Is having Sammy and D-Rob the past 2 years taking up looks? Are we actually being too hard on Hardman? People act like he's terrible, and he's not, in my opinion. He's not terrible, is he?
No, he's not terrible. Hardman plays a role. He takes the top off of defenses better than most in the league, and there's inherent value in that. He just hasn't. Hey, Tucker, someone just commented that you're the star of the show. Go ahead, give him a wave, give him a thrill. Look at that. The kid's a natural. He can't hear you guys right now because I don't have like a earbud thing for him. So this must be weird. He just hears me yakking, which is very similar to being at home. Yeah. Hardman, the thing with Hardman is that he didn't develop from year one to year two. He looked like the same guy. And in fact, he didn't look like he developed any more trust or a larger role in the offense. Now, maybe that was just Sammy and Robinson chewing up snaps, and I would say he had a bigger role in some of the intermediate stuff. A few games during the middle of the season, I thought he did all right. Yeah. And I was kind of disappointed that they didn't explore that further. I do think Hardman is getting a little underrated at this point, though. And I think we talked about that last year, where he's reached this point to where people are acting like he sucks. And he definitely does not. He's a valuable player on the team. He just hasn't developed the way people hoped.
He's not a go-to yet.
Nope.
And if you guys listen to Locked On Chiefs, or we did start it back on YouTube. For those of you who haven't seen, we are back on YouTube with Locked On Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Chris will tell you that it's about being in the right place and being able to read. And I agree with that in partiality. Mm-hmm. There have been a number of plays where he hasn't seen what the defense is doing to him. And I think that's part of it. Yeah. But the other thing is winning when it's not expected, winning those balls that the DB is on him and things like that. I think that's where he has to take a step forward. I feel like he's about 85% of his potential, which to me leaves a lot that he can still grow.
Absolutely. If he just learned how to handle contact during the middle of his route, especially when he's making his breaks, because he just gets caught up. It's not like he's not scared of it. He doesn't shrink away from it. It just slows him down too much. And he's got to make a decision about who he is. I think he lacks Tyreek's functional strength, whereas Hill can fight if he wants. But Hill's really decided, generally speaking, he's not looking for contact.
Nope.
His thing is, I'm quicker than you are. I'm going to just run around you. I'm not going to get hung up in all this hand fighting. I'm going to just scoot and go. And I think Hardman needs to make a similar decision. But no, I think I saw the next super chat, and this is a really fascinating one to me that I hadn't even thought of. I think Joseph Jackson.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just answer Ben so I go in order and I don't lose his.
No way.
I get a question about this every day, you guys, and I'm just going to tell you this. It wasn't an amicable split. The parties were not happy with each other. I don't think that it could be fixed. I don't think that Justin Houston's coming back.
Right, and that's a rare thing with an Andy Reid-led team.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying it's completely Justin Houston's fault. I think I would just say this. It's no coincidence that the players that are known for being very, very smart schematically defenders, and regardless of what else you think of Marcus Peters in terms of, the man was not willing to tackle, but he knows a thing or two about coverages and that kind of stuff. Eric Berry, Justin Houston, Marcus Peters, guys that were known for being intellectual in how they approach defense. There's a reason all of them were frustrated. And there was a little bit more going on there behind the scenes. But there was also money stuff. And when money stuff goes wrong, that's tough. Even I think Houston respects Reid, but it's hard to get over money stuff.
Yeah, that bitterness lingers. So, Joseph, I'm sorry if I called you Joe Jackson last week. I was not referring to the baseball player. I will try to remember to say Joseph in entirety like it's on your screen name. I'm sorry. But he has a good question. I know that you are intrigued by it. And the concept of Blythe taking over a guard, maybe they'll give him some looks. I don't know that I've seen him take a guard snap, though, is my question.
He started at guard for the Rams for 2 years.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, so he started 3 years in a row. The first 2 were at guard. The last one was at center. I didn't review any of his guard snaps because the Chiefs didn't have a center when they signed him. Right. And so my thought was, well, I think he's going to be playing center. That's a really interesting thought, though. Maybe.
And Andy, you're a best 5 guys.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're one of the best 5, they'll put you in there.
Absolutely. And that actually, point, that was an awesome question, Joseph or Joe, whatever you go by, Joey, Jay, whatever, man. I don't know, but I will go with Joseph because that's what you put on there. That actually you somehow made me feel better about the guard position because I, honest to goodness, hadn't even thought about Blythe because he's been so on the periphery. We talk about this all the time. Austin Blythe has been an average NFL offensive lineman for 3 years. That's not easy to do.
Nope.
And that does leave some room for error if, say, LDT is super rusty or just can't get back to form from 2018 and Long can't get healthy and Trey Smith's not ready. They do have a guy in Austin Blythe that's like, hey, wait, you started for a couple years at guard in the NFL. Hey, Sam, what's up?
Here's an idea.
Yeah. So that'd be at least worth exploring, and it can help raise the floor of the line, which is one of the goals.
Yeah. Drummer Dude, Sam, how are you? Glad you're here. Drummer Dude, thanks for the super chat. Do the Chiefs generally struggle to develop young O-line talent? It seems like most of them haven't worked out recently, but that might be due to them mostly going for late round picks. And I would say that you're correct. I think I know how Seth will answer this, but I will say having Fulton go on, maybe he wasn't as successful in Kansas City, but he was afterwards. Like he's played a lot of snaps. LDT's played a lot of snaps. When you're using 5th and 6th round picks for those guys, if you get 1 out of 5, you're doing well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know that the people who talk about offensive line, the analysts that I respect, And, maybe like Jeff Schwartz and Jeff Allen aren't necessarily, objective because Andy Heck was their coach.
Yeah.
But they're straight shooters. I mean, they've been honest about guys they thought were crap coaches too. Those guys, Duke speaks highly of Andy Heck. Mm-hmm. Every offensive line guy, Brandon Thorne, speaks highly of Andy Heck. And I would just say that goes a long way for me with the people that know better than I do when they say, yeah, this guy really knows how to coach offensive linemen. I would also note, like you said, guys like LDT, Mitch Morse. I mean, there was multiple guys. Fulton, you named, obviously. There's multiple guys that, if you really go down the list, they developed under Heck. Mm-hmm. Eric Fisher got a lot better under Andy Heck. Mitch Schwartz was a ready-made product, so that doesn't really count. But there are very few linemen that I can think of that left Kansas City and were better elsewhere. I know Fulton played more snaps elsewhere, but there were a lot of people that liked how he looked in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And so I would say I can't think of a guy that was like just not good. That's one thing to know. Do guys come to Kansas City and play as well or better? And I think they do, generally speaking.
And I'll tell you my opinion of why. And I think it's also another aspect of why this is so intriguing, this group of guys they brought in to rebuild this offensive line. I think Andy Reid's a technician. And Andy Heck is, I'm sorry. He coaches as a technician. I've always felt they need a little more edge, a little more physicality, a little more nasty. That's been my complaint about Andy Heck's units through the years. But they're always technically sound. I think that's what lets guys come here and blossom.
Yep. It raises the floor once again. And I do think one thing that I would love to see them do, because you talk about finding guys that are a little more nasty, maybe a little bigger, a little stronger, is if you trust yourself to develop that technique, maybe that's where you see, like with a Trey Smith, like, okay, let's raise the ceiling, trust that we can coach up this technique, and then be better off overall.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely something we'd want to see. But I really do trust their ability to develop offensive linemen. That's one reason I'm confident in Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, as we all should be. Avery, I hear you. The Titans might not make it out of the first round. I'm going to say they do, though. But Ian, thank you for the super chat. In addition to Reid and then putting Jones at D, where we actually see Clark get double-digit sacks because Jones Reid get doubled. It's going to give him the opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to give him the opportunity. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's entirely dependent on who Frank Clark is this year. Yeah. Is he healthy? Is he himself? Is what that was going on with him last year over? I've had to put a bit of a delay on the big Frank Clark film review that I had planned because of all the stuff that's happened with me this week. So that's coming sooner rather than later. But he definitely wasn't himself. So that's what's going to matter there. And sacks are as much about luck as they are anything else. You can get a guy, Chris Jones was just as good rushing the passer last year, and he didn't have as many sacks because it's just such a small percentage of plays.
Yeah. I mean, and the breakdowns have to come in a way that allows you to get there, especially with somebody that can run away. So, hey, it is what it is. I think we covered the super chats. So I want to say thank you to everyone who did, but we did want to make sure that we had a chance because I think this has been – you are a tale of success in a way that I can't do. And for any of you who remember when I used to write things down, I'm sorry. But
I think you meant to say right. You used to – I'm sorry. It's the same way as I YouTube. Because I watch how you so great with holding still, and I'm sitting here flopping around like a dying carp. But so I shouldn't give you a hard time because you know what? Ryan is not as bad a writer as he makes himself out to be.
Oof.
He's just bad at some things, like spelling
and grammar and
sentence structure.
I like commas way too much. I'm terrible.
Yeah. Well, all you got to do is take out some of those commas, put in a few parenthetical asides, and you'll sound like a genius, and people will think it's a bit instead of just not being a very good writer. Well, and that's,
Or they'll say, hey, you're doing a great job emulating Seth. So
yes.
But what Seth's done is take himself out of the picture and build himself something from scratch on Substack. And I know you're coming up on an anniversary. I know that it's huge. And I'm really proud to say that I was in there in the beginning and I've watched the whole thing grow. And you have done a hell of a job building your own region of the interweb.
Oh, yes. We are coming up. I'm scrolling down to find the very first one. We are coming up on June 15th It will be the 1-year anniversary of when I wrote a preview called "Welcome to the Chief in the North" newsletter. And I actually, you know what? I'm going to give a little insider baseball here. Not too much, but here's the reality of the sports coverage world. It is a wonderful place with a lot of wonderful people, and it's a lot of fun. It is not a forgiving job in that there are hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, who want to do it. Hundreds of thousands of them who are willing to do it for free. And I get why. I did it for free for years. So that's not me knocking people willing to do it for free to get their foot in the door. Do what you got to do, right? Do 5 of them for free and see which one works out. Do what you got to do. But so when COVID hit and no one knew what was really going to go on, the reality is my opportunity to write more frequently at The Athletic, where I still write, which I love. They've been nothing but awesome to me. That opportunity shrunk a little bit for obvious reasons, because they, like everyone else, had to undergo all the same things. And I had no idea what I was going to do. But like my wife and I just bought a house, and this is a side job, and it was a whole deal, and it was kind of a scary thing. And so I had heard of Substack, and Matthew Collier, who covers the Vikings, does a wonderful job, had reached out to me and was talking about that. And so I tried it out. And so Substack, this whole Chief of the North newsletter thing that we talk about here, it's, a way for me to send you an email newsletter, but it also published on the website itself. And I thought that I've never actually tried to do something on my own because it always seemed impossible. And the thing about our industry, and this is, again, I don't think it's really insider baseball. BJ's been talking about this a lot lately. Our industry can be a frustrating one because you can put hours and hours and hours of research and time and energy to provide content that is not found anywhere else and have people barely notice it. And then you could write a 5 best players to ever wear the number 61 for the Chiefs. and look, there's nothing wrong with articles like that. I've written articles like that. They're fun, and you can kind of joke around and stuff. But I mean, there's a reason why, you know what? I don't mind saying it. He's been a complete tool to people lately. There's a reason why Pro Football Talk is one of the most popular pro football websites in the world, despite providing almost nothing of original value.
Right.
It's constant aggregation, and then just writing like opinions about stuff other reporters have done, and then getting mad at those reporters when they say that you misinterpreted them. Check out the Mike Florio thing with the Green Bay Packer reporter. It was a whole deal. Okay. So it really touched me, the idea of like, wait, what if I just controlled what I wrote, when I wrote it, and how I wrote it? It's one reason I appreciate The Athletic is they don't ask me to do clickbait.
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously, I do have editors and I have people that, I answer to in terms of what I write. That's why every article doesn't contain 10-minute diatribe on a parenthetical aside as to why Jamal Charles should be in the Hall of Fame. Because believe me, that's what I want to write about every time.
Part 365.
Yeah, which, by the way, I wrote about last week at the Chief of the North newsletter. Yeah, part 365. So anyway, a year and 5 days ago, on June 15th, I wrote the words, "Welcome to the Chief of the North newsletter." And I just said this newsletter is something that's been a long time coming, something I'm deeply excited about. I've long wanted to have a direct line of Chiefs coverage from me to you, Chiefs Kingdom. I wanted to find a way to deliver straight to you the sort of coverage that you've hopefully come to expect from me over the years without having to worry about clickbait or search engine optimizations or all that other stuff. And basically that day when I launched that, my hope was that maybe a couple hundred people would subscribe and it would be a fun little thing I could do on the side. Instead, a few thousand of you have subscribed. Actually, I think we're coming up on 2,600 paying subscribers and another 1,000 that are signed up for the free emails that I keep trying to shake it. No, for $1 a month, you could get so much more. And it's just been unbelievably awesome. So those of you that haven't subscribed, feel free to check it out. If it's ever because of money issue that you just can't subscribe to something that's a paid thing, hit me up on Twitter DMs or something, and I'll shoot you a free subscription if we're being honest, because that's just not. I never want someone. Well, I just don't want money to be a reason someone can't afford something. It's been scary, and this is what I wrote. this is scary trying something new. I'm both excited and nervous at the same time, but I do know this is the best way forward to trying to bring you exactly what you've asked from me as often as I can. And it has been unbelievable. So those of you who have subscribed, and if you haven't, bit.ly/Seth really hates money to get that deal, the $12 a year. And it's forever, by the way. It's not there it is. And it's not it's $12 for the first year, and then after that it's 50. It's always $12 forever.
Can I say one thing though?
Yeah.
The purpose of Bitwhy is to be a link shortener. Okay, Josh. I mean, come on.
Hey, come on, Briscoe. Yeah, that is. Yeah, he does it. It should be bit.ly/Seth. I don't know. Yeah, Seth. Yeah, what the crap, Briscoe? Good Lord. So here's what I'd say, because I know you've got a heart out, and you were kind enough to tell me I could wax eloquent about what it's meant to me. I really didn't think this many people would subscribe. And because so many people have, it's become my primary outlet. I still write for The Athletic. It's not as often. I do more like things like from 5,000 feet in the air writing for them, but I can go into like the nitty gritty on the website. And it has been such a blessing to me and to my family. And it's made my stress levels go way down. And I just never thought that people would be willing to subscribe to read things that I might write. Oh. And I just consider it such an unbelievable privilege that people would trust me with paying me a little money and trust that I would provide them with something they would enjoy. And so, we've got the year anniversary here, and I just, if you're a subscriber, I genuinely don't know how to say thank you enough. In a way that wouldn't come across overly emotional, because it means a lot to me. It genuinely means a lot to me that people would read and follow along, and people like approach me, at Arrowhead or whatever. Hey, Seth Keysor. I'm like, yeah. And then everyone's just been so wonderful there. The comment section is like, people are nice. There's been one rude comment the entire time. Cool. And that person apologized. It was like, hey, yeah. Imagine a place on the internet where people are nice.
I am sorry.
So we're coming up on 1 year. Here's to year 2. Imaginary buy drink in the air. And and Ryan, you've been an unbelievable support throughout this. You've been pushing me to get out on my own for a while.
Yeah. Well.
And by the way, everyone who's watching this, in case they wonder, because you see Ryan providing content and that kind of stuff. When I describe people in this industry, who are friendly versus friends, Ryan is my friend, and one of the reasons I'm here with him every Thursday night is because he is my friend and has been throughout this entire time. And it's not just about, content for him. It's genuinely someone who cares. And Ryan, I just really appreciate that.
Well, back at you, dude. This has been a long journey for both of us. And it's funny because we didn't start together. We kind of found each other along the road.
Right.
And that's been fun. And I've been out here on my own for a long time. People get tired of being out in the cold, but it happens, and it allows you some freedoms that I think that are important for creativity and for you being you. So
yes,
thank you for providing what you do for us. And we appreciate that you guys like it. And, we certainly try to do the same thing here in a different format. And that's why we can come together and it all works. So Longmorn, thank you for your super chat. And that's exactly how I feel. We appreciate that. Jeremy, you don't have to do a super chat at all. This is the first comment from you that I saw today. I apologize.
We just appreciate you guys hanging out with us here.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with this show. This is more about us working through topics rather than just like the shotgun thing on Monday night, because that's when I try to answer as many questions as possible. Here we try to pick and choose.
That sounds very stressful. And people, you have to understand that Ryan can't control me. I tend to just and I'm gone. I get a question and I'm gone.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Jazz about that. There's only one person that I think can rein you in. It ain't me.
You can talk to there's 3 people in this universe. You can talk to Jazz, my mom, or Jesus, and one of the 3 of them can tell you how to get me under control.
I have to meet one of them eventually, so it'll work. Drummer dude, thank you as always. Very supportive. Do you think Thornhill is poised for a breakout season? He's shown some flashes. I feel like COVID rules last season and his injury really limited his ability to progress in year 2.
Mm-hmm. I thought Thornhill was a Pro Bowl caliber player before he got hurt in his rookie year, and he was clearly a step slow the vast majority of last year. But the version of him we saw in the playoffs is, I think, what we're going to get this year. And I think Thornhill's got all the makings of a terrific middle of the field, genuine deep ball free safety. Tremendous ball skills, tremendous closing speed. He didn't have that second part most of the year last year, and you could see it in some games. You had running backs outrunning his angles. He looked completely different from the only guy I saw go stride for stride down the field with Tyreek Hill his rookie year. Right. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I really hope he's fully healthy.
I do too. Like, I was a little concerned when he didn't start OTAs on the field. He did get on the field today, but guys,
yes,
so he's
big
out.
News. Big news.
And I agree with you. I think it was COVID. I think it was the injury. Everyone says that from some ACLs, especially for particularly, I think, long players, tall players that have long levers in their legs, it does usually take like a whole year to get fully back. You can be on the field at 80%, but to get all the way back, it takes more than that.
Matthew said it took him 2 years.
Yeah, right. I'm hoping the same thing for now too. And for everybody else, I see Aaron, thank you for laying it out there when I can't see everything. And you're absolutely right. I don't mean this isn't like only super chatters get questions answered. That's not what I'm doing. I just feel terribly guilty when somebody donates to us and what we do, and I don't give them something for it. So
super chat to make Ryan feel guilty.
Thanks, Seth. See, and this is how our life goes. But to say that, we have enjoyed a lot of growth, and it's nice to have us working in the same thing here lately. So you guys, at some point, we'll drag Seth onto a Monday night so you can like spit fire at him and he'll answer questions.
We'll limit me to like 3-sentence answers, and y'all will get to see how well I use commas.
Right? Hey, I have a mute button too, so it's not going to be a problem. I just choose not to use it. But that's a whole other thing. For those asking about assembly, I have no idea. Same with Schwartz. We'll see when they're healthy and when they're looking for a job. It might not be that long. We'll let you know when we know. But Seth, thank you for your time. You guys, thank you for everything. Get the Substack and give the man more to write about.
I do like writing about stuff.
Right. Tucker, keep your dad in check, please.
Hey, you're supposed to keep me in check, son. Got it?
Good enough. All right. That's it for us, folks. Thank you for being with us. We'll have more for you tomorrow from Danilo, and we'll be back next week. Check Sunday night. I'll have something fun for you. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you, Seth. Thank you. We'll catch you next time.